Alright, to make it to handle a little bit easier the material, I generally like to cut my design out of the material after I've used the vinyl cutter to place the design on there, just to make it a little bit easier. So I cut around the material and have basically my graphic then as a separate piece here and can get rid of the big piece of material. What I use then afterwards is a so-called weeding tool. It's nothing more than a stick of wood with a little needle at the end. It just makes it easier to pick out the pieces of vinyl that I don't want to have on the design. The vinyl cutter does for us a frame around the design by itself. It's an option that's enabled in the software where it's called a weeding frame or a weeding border. What that does for us is basically that I can easier take off what's around the graphic that was cut out. And now I can go ahead and basically get everything that's around our light bulb. Sometimes the vinyl will actually stick a little bit to it, like this, and I will have to use my finger to separate it to get a start on it. And once I have a start, I can pull off the material that we don't need. Just got to be watching out for pieces that are separated from the design, where I then need to start again to basically give it a little bit of help in the beginning. If we during the cutting would have increased our pressure, we would have probably not had to do that. So that is an indicator that the pressure was a little bit too low as we were cutting. One of the things you also want to watch for is once you peel those off, the sticky side is exposed, and the sticky side of the vinyl will stick really, really good to itself. So as you see, there's a problem here where I just stuck a little bit to the vinyl. The best way to get rid of a situation like that, or to resolve a situation like that, is not by pulling slowly, because as you pull slowly, you will actually lift off the vinyl off the underground. The thing is, grab it close and pull fast. That's usually what works best. That way you can rescue a piece like that. If you try pulling slowly, you will pull it off of the substrate actually. And the last piece would be the inside of our light bulb. Sometimes it is a little bit hard to see the cut, so I would just hold it against the light so you see the outside of it. And that's it. Here we have our light bulb on the carrier material. What we need to do now to make an actual decal out of that, meaning that we have something where we can apply that to a wall or to a car or to wherever you want to apply it, you need something called a transfer paper. Transfer paper is basically, again, a vinyl paper material that has a sticky side on the back. The stickiness is not as strong as the stickiness of the vinyl, so meaning that once I transfer this graphic onto something else, it will actually stick stronger to whatever it's transferred on than to the paper, and I can then pull the paper back up. As you can see, this rolls a lot here because it was on a roll before. You want to kind of like straighten it out a little bit, bend it a little bit, so that you can apply that paper over it. This is kind of like a tricky part, and it just takes some practice to do that without bubbles. Everybody kind of like needs to figure it out for themselves, what works the easiest and what works the best for them. Generally, I like it when the material bows a little bit, because then I get one point in the middle where I can attach it to, and I bow the other material the same way, and then basically just try to get as few creases and bubbles and everything in there as I attach that material to it. After that, we take a little squeegee and we basically just run that over the material to make sure it's adhered very well to the light bulb graphic that we have there. And after that, we take an X-Acto knife and just get rid of the excess material around there. And what we have here is a not so pretty looking, but it is a vinyl graphic that we can attach to wherever we want to attach it to. As a quick example, I'm taking this graphic now, take it off of the carrier film, And I can attach that graphic to pretty much anything that I see. For example, I can put it right on that filler here. We take the squeegee, wipe it onto the filler, and peel our carrier film off.
Ooh.
And didn't rub that one good enough onto the filler. And we have a pretty light bulb on the filler.
Very cool. Any final tips?
It's practice, because there are a lot of little issues where you're basically working on attaching the transfer paper and things like that, where you run into creases and into whatever. You will produce some junk that you will have to throw away, because that's just what happens. It's practice. There's no replacement for that.
All right. Thank you, Marcus.
Sure, anytime.